A 15-year-old girl entered her husband's family home with the belief that she would have a happy marriage. She had no idea that night would be the last peaceful night of her life. For the man who climbed into her bed the next night was not her husband. It was her father-in-law, a renowned Maoshan sorcerer famous across Malaysia, revered by thousands of followers as a god. From then on, the rest of her days would be a dark hell. So where was her husband at this time? What will the outcome of this story be? Join Crime Documentary Files as we explore two cases that shocked Malaysia in the 90s. To understand how, even within the darkest corners of those who appear to be the most virtuous, there is always a demon ready to destroy everything. One night in 1986, in a two-story house on Bala Garden Road, Dang Pulak, in Seremban City, Malaysia, strange calls could be heard. Little demon, come eat your meal. The air was filled with a burnt smell. Inside a south-facing room, there was a ritual altar with 6 child-sized statues about 20 inches tall. 2 men and 1 woman were kneeling on the ground, burning red cloth and paper money, muttering, little demon, come eat your meal." Suddenly, the sound of children laughing could be heard, sending chills down one's spine. What's even stranger, the next morning, rice was scattered in front of the neighbors' doors, leaving everyone terrified. It turns out the owner of this 2-story house was Shu Jinhi, who had just moved into Bala Garden. The house was said to have been a gift from his followers. So who exactly was Shu Jinhi that someone would just give him an entire house? Like many others, Shu Jinhi was once an ordinary person. He worked at a wood factory and later became a truck driver after getting married. One day, Shu Jinhi dreamt of an old immortal. The immortal told him that the time had come and Shu Jinhi needed to take responsibility and help people solve their troubles. The immortal then pointed toward the void, and Shu Jinhi immediately felt a golden light surrounding him. When he woke up, he felt incredibly light, and his mind was flooded with countless charms. From then on, Shu Jinhi gained a new identity, a Maoshan sorcerer. He immediately purchased materials and set up a ritual altar at his house in Olu village. After work, he would divine, give people advice, and perform healing rituals. His divination was so accurate that even incurable diseases vanished with his remedies. What's more, his fees for divination were very low, and for those in financial hardship, he even provided guidance for free. As a result, his followers grew in number, and before long, he had taken in dozens of disciples. However, not long after, Shu Jinhi fell seriously ill and could no longer continue working as a truck driver. He had to stay home and work as a full-time sorcerer to support his family. He was forced to raise his fees for divination, but his followers didn't decrease. Over time, Shu Jinhi realized that making money through divination was much easier than being a truck driver. One day, a local government official came to Shu Jinhi and told him that a house was haunted and asked for his help to perform an exorcism. Before Shu Jinhi could agree, the official handed over 100,000 ringgit as an advance. This was Shu Jinhi's first large payment. Gradually, he realized that no matter how high he set his prices, people would still come to him, including many officials and nobles. When these people were accused, they simply turned a blind eye. Shu Jinhi now had money and protection. Over time, he became consumed by his desire for wealth, even gambling in his free time. However, by going against his conscience, Shu Jinhi soon received a warning from heaven. During a religious festival, Shu Jinhi set up everything and invited his followers to celebrate. But when he began the ritual, the large incense sticks placed along the road all broke in half. Strangely, the break points of these incense sticks were perfectly smooth, with the breaks being exactly in the middle. This event shocked the local community. Some people believed Shu Jinhi did it himself, while others thought it was a divine punishment because the incense sticks broke so evenly that humans couldn't have done it. Shu Jinhi chose to avoid the issue. Not long after, in 1986, Shu Jinhi moved his family to a 2-story house on Bala Garden Road, Dang Pulak, in Seremban City. After settling in Seremban City, his reputation spread even further. Many officials and nobles came to him for advice. Shu Jinhi then participated in a magical duel with another sorcerer. The duel was triggered by a 19-year-old girl who had been cursed. Shu Jinhi and a newly trained sorcerer named Wu Ting battled each other, each showcasing their supernatural abilities. In the end, the girl recovered under Wu Ting's hands. Though Shu Jinhi lost the battle, the Perak Chinese Religious Coordination Council awarded him a gold plaque with the words, "Real gold doesn't fear fire." This was clearly an acknowledgement of Shu Jinhe's abilities. He greatly cherished this plaque and hung it in the highest position on his ritual altar. This duel further elevated Shu Jinhe's fame, and everyone in the local area knew this Maoshan sorcerer. So, what is the truth behind this story? Let's go back in time to 1988. At that time, Wu Shenfa and Chen Xinyue, a married couple from the Selangor, visited the Maoshan ritual altar in Seremban City to pay their respects, where they met Shu Jinhi. After becoming acquainted, Shu Jinhi asked them if they had a daughter who wasn't yet married, mentioning that he had a 17-year-old son named Ah Guang. At that time, the Wu couple were loyal followers of Shu Jinhi, and seeing that he wanted to arrange a marriage, they happily introduced their 15-year-old daughter. Shu Jinhi immediately asked them to bring their daughter to the ritual altar. The Wu family had 6 children, and their daughter, who was introduced to marry into the Shu family, was named Wu Shuihua, often called Ahua. Ahua and Aguang got along very well, and after 2 months of dating, both families decided to hold a wedding for the couple. On their wedding night, Shu Jinhi told the couple that it wasn't yet the night for consummating their marriage, so nothing happened that night. Ahua, too, spent the last peaceful night of her life. The next morning, Aguang was sent by Shu Jinhi to Singapore for work, a trip that would last 3 years, leaving him with very little time to return home to his wife. Shu Jinhi's true intentions became clear. The night Aguang left, Shu Jinhi climbed into Ahua's bed and ruthlessly took her virginity. Ahua continuously resisted but was threatened by Shu Jinhi. If she didn't comply, he had enough ways to torment her and her family. Terrified beyond measure, she had no choice but to submit. Shu Jinhi pampered his daughter-in-law, giving her large amounts of pocket money and often taking her on trips to Sabah, Thailand, Taiwan. He even took her to Singapore to visit her husband. One strange thing was that Shu Jinhi repeatedly arranged for Ahua to get tattoos in Singapore. Over the 3 years, Ahua had a total of 6 tattoos: a scorpion, a sword, a snake, a Buddha, a skull, and a dragon body. Shu Jinhi explained that these tattoos were to ward off evil spirits and that no demons or evil forces could harm her. For 3 years, Shu Jinhi neglected his 2 wives and spent his nights with Ahua. It is unknown what kind of drugs he gave his wives, but they seemed completely indifferent to this relationship. During this time, Ahua even gave birth to a baby girl. Shu Jinhi repeatedly threatened Ahua not to reveal the existence of the baby girl or the tattoos to anyone. On May 14, 1991, Chen Xinyue, as usual, checked on Ahua's situation. That day, the ritual altar was empty, and Shu Jinhi was away. Ahua, feeling the pressure for so long, finally couldn't hold it in any longer and tearfully confided in her mother about everything that had happened over the past 3 years. The mother was deeply heartbroken and enraged and immediately discussed the situation with her husband. The couple told Ahua to lure Shu Jinhi to Selangor for a while and then gather a group of relatives and friends. When Shu Jinhi arrived, the crowd angrily surrounded him and beat him. Defenseless, Shu Jinhi had no choice but to sneak out through the back door. The couple kept their daughter at home, preventing Shu Jinhi from coming to take her away. The situation temporarily calmed down, and the mother asked the question on everyone's mind: who was the child's real father? At that moment, Ahua hesitated and said she didn't know. Based on Shu Jinhi's vile behavior, everyone suspected that the child was most likely Shu Jinhi's. This conclusion infuriated the Wu couple, and the mother regretted having married her daughter into the Shu family. After arranging for their daughter to stay at home, the couple went out to work. But when they returned, they were stunned. Ahua had disappeared. Worried that Shu Jinhi might have harmed their daughter again, they quickly contacted the press to hold a press conference. At the press conference, Wu Shenfa, 46, and Chen Xinyue, 39, condemned Shu Jinhi's crimes and appealed to the public to help find their missing daughter. The press conference immediately became a hot topic. After hearing Ahua's story, everyone was heartbroken and horrified, condemning Shu Jinhi's bestial actions. The story of father-in-law becoming the husband appeared on the front pages of newspapers. Perhaps seeing the coverage in the newspapers, the person who had taken Ahua was terrified. That very evening, Ahua, in a dazed state, appeared at home. Chen Xinyue anxiously asked her daughter where she had been. Ahua vaguely replied that she had gotten into a green car. The mother asked who was in the car, and Ahua said it was someone from the government. Seeing her daughter in a dazed state, the couple believed that Shu Jinhi had used sorcery on her, so they decided to wait until she regained her clarity before asking her again. However, when Ahua woke up, she had no memory of what happened that day. A month later, Aguang returned, complicating things even further. Upon hearing that Aguang was back, Ahua immediately called him, saying that she needed money to remove her tattoos. A few days later, Aguang agreed but asked Ahua not to take the Shu family to court. On June 20th, 1991, at 11 a.m., Ahua and her father went to a gas station in Selangor to meet. When they arrived, they saw Aguang and a woman sitting in the car. Wu Shenfa approached the car and knocked on the window. Suddenly, several large men got out of the car, pulled both father and daughter into the back seat, and took them to the Seremban City police station. The police claimed that the father and daughter were involved in an extortion case. After being detained for 24 hours, they were finally released. Wu Shenfa was extremely angry after being released from the police station. Clearly, he and his daughter had only been seeking compensation for damages, so how did it turn into extortion? Ahua also felt wronged and furious. She had previously agreed not to take the events of the past 3 years to court out of respect for their relationship, but now the other side had filed a lawsuit first. Ahua could no longer endure it. 2 days later, at the age of 18, Ahua officially reported to the police, accusing Shu Jinhi's son, Aguang, of marrying her when she was 15, and then her father-in-law, Shu Jinhi, forcing her for 3 years and causing her to give birth to a baby girl. On June 24, 1991, the police arrested 49-year-old Shu Jinhi for investigation and also collected blood samples from Ahua, her daughter, and Shu Jinhi to conduct tests to determine their relationship. The Shu family also filed charges of extortion against the Wu family, while the Wu family filed charges of assault. The two cases became deeply intertwined and complicated. The Seremban City Police, not daring to be careless, decided to investigate both cases simultaneously. In the early 1990s, DNA testing was a high-tech procedure, and Malaysia did not have the capability for it at the time. Therefore, the blood samples from the 3 individuals had to be sent to Singapore for testing. However, before the results could be returned, Shu Jinhi's detention period expired. With no sufficient evidence, the police allowed Shu Jinhi to post a bail of 10,000 ringgit to await further investigation outside the court. After his release, Shu Jinhi quickly converted his 2 wives, 3 sons, and young granddaughter to Islam in order to avoid legal responsibility. In Malaysia, the courts were divided into civil and religious courts, with different sets of regulations. The religious courts were more lenient and typically gave lighter sentences. Therefore, converting to Islam was clearly the best option for Shu Jinhi at that time. Journalists later visited the Negeri Sembilan religious department to confirm the conversion, and the department's secretary confirmed that this had indeed happened. Ahua's daughter also converted with her father's consent. The journalists even obtained the Islamic names of all 7 members of the Shu family. Naturally, the most anticipated thing for everyone was the DNA test results. Who was the biological father of Ahua's daughter? What was puzzling was that the head of the Seremban City police station, Mr. Halim, insisted that the blood samples had been sent to Singapore for testing. However, on July 4th, Dr. Chu Tu-ji, the deputy director of the genetic testing lab, stated that no blood samples had been sent to his lab. So, whether the blood samples had been sent to Singapore or not remains unknown. By September 7th, 1991, Shu Jinhi's bail period ended, but there was still no word on the DNA test results. At that point, Shu Jinhi was released. Many people felt it was unjust for A Hua, with some believing that Shu Jinhi had colluded with the police and never actually sent the blood samples to Singapore. Then, on March 9, 1992, A Hua was finally approved to conduct a blood test investigation outside of the police department. A month later, A Hua successfully obtained blood samples from Shu Jinhi, a Guang, and her daughter, which were sent to Singapore. On September 22, 1992, after 1 year and 3 months, the long-awaited DNA test results were finally available. In court, the judge officially declared, it was confirmed that Maoshan sorcerer Shu Jinhi had engaged in sexual relations with his daughter-in-law, A Hua, and the biological father of A Hua's daughter was indeed Shu Jinhi. The courtroom buzzed with chatter upon hearing this announcement. However, Shu Jinhi's lawyer submitted a medical report claiming that Shu Jinhi had long-term impotence. At the same time, A Hua's lawyer found a witness who confirmed that during the year A Hua gave birth to her daughter, Shu Jinhi also fathered a son with a young concubine. This proved that Shu Jinhi was indeed capable of fathering children and was not impotent. Finally, the court granted A Hua's request for divorce and ordered A Guang to pay her 60,000 ringgit in compensation. But what everyone was more concerned about was whether the DNA test results could lead to charges of rape against Shu Jinhi. On February 20th, 1995, at around 9 a.m., just 10 days before the trial, Shu Jinhi was found deceased in the dining room by his family, wearing red clothes. The police determined that Shu Jinhi had passed away sometime between 1 and 2 a.m. that morning, while his family was asleep. The death of Shu Jinhi once again sparked rumors surrounding this incest case. A Hua's father believed that Shu Jinhi met his end out of fear of punishment. Some claimed that before his death, Shu Jinhi had suffered heavy gambling losses at the Genting casino, and due to ongoing lawsuits and mounting debts, he was pushed to the edge. Shu Jinhi's disciples, on the other hand, thought that their master had brought this upon himself. By raising a little demon, he was ultimately consumed by it. There were rumors that before his death, Shu Jinhi had left behind several farewell letters written in Chinese, in which he expressed his wish for the religious authorities to care for his family and pleaded for the world to clear his name. After Shu Jinhi's death on March 13th, the court reconvened, and the prosecution announced that it had received approval from the Negeri Sembilan prosecutor's office to withdraw the charges against Shu Jinhi. As a result, the identity of A Hua's daughter's biological father would forever remain a mystery. Although the DNA report confirmed that Shu Jinhi was the father of A Hua's daughter, the withdrawal of the charges meant that the court could not render a verdict. Therefore, the legal question of whether the 5-year-old girl was Shu Jinhi's daughter or A Guang's could no longer be proven. Thus, the incestuous case of father-in-law and daughter-in-law finally came to a close. As for A Hua, she stood up and began a new life. Today, she owns a beauty salon and has a happy family, the living proof of the saying, "Good deeds are repaid with good, evil deeds with evil." However, Malaysia in the early 90s was not just home to one tragedy. During that same period, in the state of Perak, not far from where Shu Jinhi had once practiced, another even more chilling case occurred. While A Hua was fortunate to escape the clutches of a man who disguised himself as a holy figure, a 16-year-old girl was not so lucky. She had rejected a marriage proposal from someone she had always respected, but what awaited her was death, assault, and her body was dismembered into 8 pieces and thrown into the Perak River. So, what is the truth behind the next case? Don't rush to turn off the video. Let's discover it right now. On February 29, 1992, at 9 a.m., a shipyard worker arrived at his workplace in Teluk Intan, Malaysia, as usual. When walking along the banks of the Perak River, he noticed something unusual. It was a grayish-blue object, standing out among the black dry leaves surrounding it. Since the area was close to the construction site, the worker initially thought it was a part that a colleague had dropped and intended to pick it up. However, as he got closer and observed more carefully, he was horrified to realize that it wasn't a part at all, but clearly a human body part. The worker immediately called the police. Upon receiving the report, the police arrived at the scene and began their investigation. A preliminary examination revealed that the body part was from the waist to the knee, with the lower half not wearing any pants. Based on the remaining features, the police concluded that the body belonged to a female. The police immediately launched an extensive search around the area. About 1,300 feet away, a foul odor was wafting through the air. The police, alarmed, quickly traced the source of the smell. Although they had mentally prepared themselves, the next scene still caused many officers to vomit on the spot. What they found was a dismembered body from the waist up, lying near a pile of stones. Due to prolonged water immersion, the victim's face was severely swollen, making identification impossible. The only thing vaguely recognizable was that it was a female. She was wearing a blue t-shirt, and her arms were severed at unknown locations. Even more chillingly, her abdomen had been cruelly slashed open, with her internal organs spilling out. The scene was overpowering with a strong, foul odor. The scattered organs had attracted numerous insects, swarming over them and making the scene even more disturbing. At that moment, the sound of agonizing cries drew the police's attention back. Not far behind, a middle-aged man, shaking all over, with a haggard face, was staring at the body part, crying uncontrollably. After composing himself, the man, identified as Zhi Yangyi, tearfully told the police that his 16-year-old daughter, Si Wenxing, had been missing for 2 days. Before her disappearance, she was wearing the same blue t-shirt. Upon hearing about the discovery of a female victim along the Perak River, Zhi Yangyi became deeply uneasy. Upon arriving at the scene and seeing the police preparing to continue their search, he secretly followed them. Just a glance was enough for Zhi Yangyi to recognize the body as that of his missing daughter. To quickly confirm whether the body belonged to Zhi Wenxing, the police called on the nearby villagers to help recover the remaining body parts. However, the villagers, afraid to participate, hesitated to help. At this point, a man named Zhang Zhenshun, who claimed to be willing to assist, stepped forward and volunteered to help the police retrieve the decaying body parts, assisting the investigators in packing the remains into sealed bags and even carrying the upper half of the body to the police mortuary vehicle. This seemingly kind gesture caught the attention of the police. The decaying body, having been submerged in water for several days, emitted a strong, putrid odor that was unbearable for many officers. The scene was extremely gruesome, and even the bravest individuals would avoid looking directly, let alone touching it. Yet, Zhenshun seemed unaffected. Was he truly just being kind? The police, suspicious of Zhenshun, did not conduct further investigations immediately due to the urgency of continuing the search for the remaining body parts. Unfortunately, after a full day and night of searching, the police found nothing else. On the other hand, forensic examination confirmed that all the body parts belonged to one person, and the DNA matched closely with that of Zhi Wenxing, who had gone missing 2 days earlier. It was clear that the victim was Zhi Wenxing. The forensic expert reported that the victim had been assaulted before death, and the cause of death was strangulation. Upon hearing this, Zhi Yangyi and his son broke down in tears, pleading with the police to catch the killer. During the investigation into Zhi Wenxing's background, the police discovered a familiar face, Zhang Zhenshun, the man who had helped retrieve the body parts. Zhenshun had been a longtime close friend of Zhi Yangyi, and he had treated Zhi Yangyi's children as his own. Later, an officer recalled that Zhenshun seemed to have some scratch marks on his chest that day. Combined with his active participation in retrieving the body and other suspicious behavior, the police decided to investigate further. When asked about the scratches on his chest, Zhenshun claimed they were caused by a tree branch while sweeping the yard in front of his house. This clumsy excuse failed to convince the police. On March 2nd, 1992, the police went to Zhang Zhenshun's house and asked him to reenact how he got scratched by a tree branch. Naturally, Zhenshun was unable to demonstrate. The police didn't actually want him to reenact the event, but instead, they conducted a search of his house. During the search, the police discovered a machete and saw, suspected to be the murder weapons, along with a piece of blue electrical wire. Not only that, they also found 2 rings and a necklace belonging to Zhi Wenxing. At the back door of Zhenshun's house, Xie Wenxing's favorite red bicycle was found as well. The evidence was clear, but they still needed one final piece of the puzzle. Eventually, the police extracted blood that had been left on the wooden bed in Zhenshun's bedroom. DNA comparison confirmed that this blood belonged to Xie Wenxing. With this evidence, the police had enough to arrest Zhenshun immediately. At this point, Xie Yangyi, already devastated, was stunned. His longtime close friend, who had always been kind to his daughter, had suddenly killed her and dismembered her so brutally. It turned out that, in a place Xie Yangyi never saw, Zhenshun's affection for Xie Wenxing had silently turned into a twisted obsession. Zhenshun, born in 1957, was 35 years old at the time, 9 years younger than Xie Yangyi. His mother, who was a nurse, had died in an accident when he was young. After that, he and his father, Zhang Shanlong, depended on each other. They lived in a small wooden house on Huxi Kang Road, just a few minutes' walk from the Perak River. Due to growing up without a mother and with a neglectful father, Zhang Zhenshun's personality became distorted. As an adult, he became an alcoholic. As his alcoholism worsened, he began using hallucinatory drugs. In addition to his issues with alcohol and drugs, Zhenshun also enjoyed hunting wild animals. He was nicknamed Perverted Shun. Due to his isolated and deviant behavior, he was disliked by his neighbors. Some neighbors reported that Zhenshun had been caught secretly watching others bathe at a public bathhouse. He had also never had a girlfriend, even though he was already over 30. It wasn't until he met Xie Yangyi that his lonely life began to show some light. Zhenshun was very grateful to Xie Yangyi and treated his 2 children like his own. However, what no one expected was that Zhenshun, who had watched Xie Wenxing grow up, developed a sick, obsessive affection for her. One day, he gave her a love letter. Upon receiving the love letter, Xie Wenxing was terrified and confused. She didn't dare tell her father or brother, so she secretly confided in her best friend, telling her that she only saw Zhenshun as a close uncle. Due to the relationship between her father and Zhenshun, Xie Wenxing truly didn't know what to do. Her best friend suggested that she use the excuse of being too busy with school to avoid visiting Zhenshun. Zhenshun immediately saw through this clumsy excuse. He knew this was a clear sign that Xie Wenxing didn't like him. To win her over, Zhenshun devised a plan, and on February 27th, he finally saw an opportunity. That day, Xie Wenxing was asked by her father to go to Zhenshun's house to pick up a lottery ticket. Thinking that since she had distanced herself from Zhenshun, he hadn't acted inappropriately, Xie Wenxing went without suspicion. Meanwhile, Zhenshun, knowing that Xie Wenxing was on her way, began executing his long-planned scheme. He first gave her father water laced with a hallucinogenic drug. When Xie Wenxing arrived, he handed her the lottery ticket and offered her a cup of water also laced with the drug. After drinking it, Xie Wenxing quickly fell unconscious. Zhenshun dragged her into the bedroom and assaulted her. When Xie Wenxing woke up, she realized she was being assaulted. She cried out to report it to the police and struggled to escape. Fearing exposure, Zhenshun pinned her down and prevented her from fleeing. During the violent struggle, Xie Wenxing scratched Zhenshun's chest. Unfortunately, she was unable to escape from the clutches of her uncle. Zhenshun strangled her until she lost consciousness, then used an electrical cord to suffocate her, hiding her body under the bed in the bedroom. Around 11 p.m. that night, when he saw no one was around and her father had fallen unconscious, Zhenshun pulled Xie Wenxing's body from under the bed. He then used a machete and sought to dismember her into 8 pieces on a wooden bed, before dumping the body parts into the Perak River near his house. Zhenshun believed the river's current would wash away Xie Wenxing's remains, and no one would ever know. However, some parts of the body got stuck on the riverbank, and were discovered by passing workers. Later, Zhenshun buried Xie Wenxing's rings and necklace in the ground outside his house, placing rocks on top to cover them. After finishing his gruesome task, he washed the clothes he wore during the crime, hung them in the bathroom to dry, and even took the time to comfort Xie Yangyi, the grieving father. What's even more chilling is that Xie Wenxing was not the first young woman Zhenshun had been obsessed with. A relative of Zhenshun told the police that Zhenshun had confessed his feelings to their daughter, but she had firmly rejected him. Neighbors also reported that Genshin had verbally harassed and expressed his affections to their teenage niece. The girl, frightened, had immediately reported it to her family, and they warned Genshin, which helped her escape harm. Upon hearing this, Xie Yangyi could no longer hold back his tears. After decades of friendship, how had he failed to notice the twisted nature of Zhang Zhenshun? His carelessness in his associations had ultimately cost his daughter her life. Thinking of this, Xie Yangyi could never forgive himself. From this heartbreaking account, we learn about the bright life Si Wenxing had before she was tragically harmed. Xie Yangyi, born in 1948, opened a noodle shop in Teluk Intan when he was younger before transitioning to working as a painter. In 1974, Xie Yangyi and his wife had a son whom they named Xie Junwei. 2 years later, they had a daughter, Si Wenxing. Si Wenxing was beautiful, lively, and polite, always greeting adults first, which made her beloved by the elders. In school, Si Wenxing excelled academically, often helping her friends with their difficulties, and was admired by everyone as a smart and beautiful girl. However, in 1985, Xie Yangyi divorced his wife, raising his 2 children on his own. He continued living in a house on Husikang Road in Teluk Intan, while his ex-wife moved to Ipoh, the capital of Perak. Despite their separation, she remained deeply devoted to their children. In an era before advanced communication technology, the family stayed in regular contact through letters. Not long after, Xie Yangyi became friends with his neighbor, Zhang Zhenshun, the same person who would later help retrieve the body parts we previously discussed. Zhenshun was a painter and frequently worked with Xie Yangyi. Over time, they became close friends. In his free time, Zhenshun would visit Xie Yangyi's house, showing great affection for his children, often bringing sweets and small toys to make them happy. Both Xie Wenxing and Xie Junwei grew fond of their uncle and respectfully called him uncle. However, things took a turn in 1987 when a fire destroyed Xie Yangyi's house, and the family had to move 2 kilometers away. Despite the move, their relationship with Zhenshun remained unchanged. Zhenshun, who didn't know how to ride a bicycle or motorcycle, relied on Xie Yangyi to pick him up and take him to work, regardless of the weather, and take him home afterward. Their bond grew stronger over time. After the move, Xie Wenxing continued to visit the Husikang Road area regularly, as she still had many school friends living there. Xie Yangyi felt at ease knowing that Zhenshun lived there, and if anything happened to his daughter, she could count on Zhenshun for help. Later, Xie Wenxing was accepted into Sam Tet Private Secondary School in Teluk Intan, a private school offering Chinese language education. To reward his daughter, Xie Yangyi gave her a red bicycle as a gift for advancing to the next grade. Xie Wenxing loved the bike and often rode it around the city in her free time. In 1992, Xie Wenxing was about to graduate from middle school and was preparing to take her junior high school exam. On February 27, 1992, Xie Yangyi was playing mahjong at a friend's house. Xie Wenxing came to find him, telling him she planned to go for a bike ride later that afternoon. Xie Yangyi happily agreed and asked her to stop by Zhenshun's house to pick up a lottery ticket, a popular game in Malaysia at the time. Afterward, Xie Wenxing set off on her beloved bicycle. Little did Xie Yangyi know, that would be the last time he saw his daughter. Around 6 p.m., after finishing his mahjong game, Xie Yangyi returned home to find that Xie Wenxing had not yet returned, which struck him as odd. Although his daughter often went out to play, she always returned before dinner to help prepare the meal. When his son, Xie Junwei, came home from work, and Xie Wenxing was still not there, Xie Yangyi decided to go out to buy dinner and look for her along the way. He first went to Zhang Zhenshun's house. Zhenshun told him that Xie Wenxing had come by around 2:35 p.m. to pick up the lottery ticket and mentioned she was going to meet friends, but he didn't ask who exactly. As they spoke, Xie Yangyi heard Zhenshun's father, who was over 70 years old, mumbling something in the bedroom. Zhenshun explained that his elderly father had been disoriented since the afternoon due to the effects of hallucinatory drugs. What Xie Yangyi didn't know was that his daughter, whom he missed dearly, was lying under the bed in Zhenshun's bedroom, just on the other side of the wall. Worried, Xie Yangyi asked about the elderly man's health. Zhenshun sighed and mentioned that the elderly man had been disoriented since the afternoon. Xie Yangyi then entered the bedroom to check on his father-in-law, but called out several times with no response. Eager to find his daughter, he reluctantly left. By 8 p.m., Xie Yangyi still hadn't found Xie Wenxing. Thinking that she might have gotten lost, he decided to bring the dinner he had just bought back home. Xie Junwei, waiting at home, was shocked when his father came back alone without his sister. They hurried out to search for Xie Wenxing, visiting the homes of Xie Wenxing's close friends. Xie Junwei also checked places where Xie Wenxing often went. However, they found nothing. By February 29, 1992, Xie Wenxing had been missing for 3 days. Seeing his father unable to sleep for 2 days, Xie Junwei urged him to stay at home, saying that if his sister returned and found no one there, it would be worse. Saying this, he went out alone to continue searching for her. Xie Yangyi waited anxiously at home. After a while, he received a call. A female body had been discovered by the Perak River. Xie Yangyi froze, overwhelmed by a strong sense of unease. He didn't dare think it, but couldn't stop thinking. Could it be his daughter? With a heart full of complex emotions, Xie Yangyi arrived at the scene just as the police were continuing to search for other body parts. At that moment, his mind was blank, and he quietly followed the police. When he saw the blue t-shirt, all the pain came flooding back, and Xie Yangyi could not hold back his tears, collapsing in grief. To ensure his daughter could rest in peace, Xie Yangyi tried to suppress his sorrow and set the funeral date for March 3, 1992. During this time, a fisherman at the Sungai Manik ferry terminal discovered the right leg of Xie Wenxing. Unfortunately, her arms and left leg were still missing. On March 3, 1992, Xie Wenxing's body was taken to Sam Po Tong Temple in Ipoh for cremation. Since her body was not intact, Xie Yangyi had specially made paper hands and feet for his daughter, hoping she could be buried with a complete body. Upon hearing the full story, the people of Teluk Intan were deeply saddened. They spontaneously raised money and invited 9 senior monks and 5 Taoist priests to perform the Dameng Shanpu-du ritual, the highest Buddhist ceremony, at the place where Xie Wenxing had been harmed, to help her soul find peace. After completing all the arrangements, Xie Yangyi, along with all the residents, shared a common goal: to wait for Jiang Zhenshun's trial. On March 14, 1992, with solid evidence, the Teluk Intan District Court determined that Zhenshun had murdered the 16-year-old Xie Wenxing at his home between 3 p.m. on February 27 and 7 p.m. on February 28, 1992. However, Zhenshun's defense lawyer requested a mental health evaluation. It wasn't until July 20, 1993, that the trial officially began. On June 3, 1994, the Teluk Intan District Court convicted Zhenshun of the particularly severe crime of murder in the case of Xie Wenxing and transferred the case to the Ipoh High Court for further proceedings. However, on June 26, 1995, when the High Court reopened the case, it ruled that Zhenshun's actions when killing Xie Wenxing constituted manslaughter rather than murder. As a result, the charge of murder was dropped. Realizing he had narrowly escaped the death penalty, Zhenshun immediately pleaded guilty. Ultimately, he was sentenced to 15 years in prison. After Jiang Zhenshun was arrested, he left behind his elderly, lonely father. The crimes of his son ultimately caused distress to this innocent elderly man. Zhang Shanlong, 75 years old, lived every day under the criticism of his neighbors. Not only that, but the police repeatedly searched their home. During these searches, the police required Zhang Shanlong to sit still in a chair and not move. The elderly man, nearly 80, was severely affected by the mental stress. 3 weeks after Zhenshun's conviction, Zhang Shanlong passed away in the hospital. Zhenshun, not yet granted permission to attend his father's funeral, was unable to be there when Zhang Shanlong's body was cremated. During his prison sentence, Zhenshun seemed to transform into a different person. He converted to Buddhism, meditated and chanted sutras every month, and adopted a vegetarian diet, hoping to atone for his sins against Xie Wenxing. He also told volunteers in prison that on the day of the crime, he had been under the influence of drugs that robbed him of his humanity, which led him to commit an act that enraged both people and heaven. As time passed, in 2004, Zhenshun, now 47 years old, completed his sentence. However, he did not return to Teluk Intan, and no one knew where he went. 15 years, this was the price Zhang Zhenshun had to pay for his brutal crime. But for Xie Yangyi, it was 15 years living in hell on earth. Every night, he needed sleeping pills to even get some rest, and every morning, the pain of losing his daughter would rush back just as it had on the first day. There are some things that can never be erased. The image of his 16-year-old daughter, smart, beautiful, with her beloved red bicycle, forever frozen in her youth. 2 cases, 2 tragedies, but with one painful lesson. The most dangerous enemy is not always a stranger, but often those we trust the most. Shu Jinhi, the sorcerer revered as a god. Zhang Zhenshun, the close uncle who was treated like family. Both exploited trust to satisfy their dark desires. Malaysia in the early 90s witnessed many such tragedies. But what's even more frightening than black magic or sorcery is the human heart when it falls into the mire of desire. For the most terrifying evil is not in the underworld, but within the human soul.